Hi, my name is Borukhovich, and I'm the CEO and founder of YourCoach. In the world of health coaching, we're always working to help our clients become their best selves, while striving to become our best selves along the way. That is why I'm so passionate about health coaching, and that is why my team and I work tirelessly to bring you the best experience possible. Receiving my coaching certification not only inspired me to launch YourCoach, but it helped me become a better version of myself in more ways than I could have ever imagined. That is something I truly needed as I was healing my body and soul throughout my cancer journey. The driving force for me and my team is creating a virtual home for all things health and wellness coaching. For you coaches, we're giving you a home to manage your practice and help your clients become their best versions all in one place. And now we're taking our promises a step further. We now provide additional opportunities for our active coaching community through our employer partnerships. For you, progressive employers and leaders, we're matching your hardworking talent with health coaches based on their individual needs and unique health goals. Especially now as work and home lines are being blurred, and if you care more about health and not just healthcare as most of us do, it's time to start investing in what goes on beyond the doctor's office. And that's not all. We're not stopping here. In order to motivate the coaches on our platform to continue developing their skills and to bring the power of health coaching to more people than ever, we're so excited to introduce a revolutionary gamified pricing model that's going to turn the practice management industry on its head. Now, for practicing coaches on our platform, it's possible to bring the cost of the platform down to just $10 a month with unlimited clients and full platform capabilities. We recognize that becoming our best selves is a journey, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. We're confident that through our best version, we can ensure that anyone who wants or needs access to a health coach will have one. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be happy and healthy humans. Join us on the health coaching revolution.
Welcome to another YourCoach webinar. My name is Eugene Borukhovich. I am co-founder and COO of YourCoach Health, and we are everything about health and wellness coaching. It's your virtual home. And today, it's my pleasure to be here with Jeffery. She is the Chief People Officer at Pear Therapeutics. And as a lazy host, I've been told I would love for you to do a quick intro in your background and kind of how you got to the CPO role.
Thank you so much, Eugene. I will say that you're not a lazy host, but thank you. How did I get to become a CPO? Well, I would have to say it's been a long 20-some years of a career in mostly technology and now biotech, digital health organizations, and really had the opportunity to have some really great mentors in my career and coaching. By the way, I've been practicing coaching as well as having a coach since 2003, and I really do attribute that to my career and being able to continue to grow personally and professionally, actually.
We always also say, as a chief people officer, you're a coach to the talent to a certain extent, right? And we always say even a coach needs a coach, right? So we all do need help. Maybe you can talk a little bit for our viewers and listeners about what is a chief people officer role, right? I know, it's been HR, human resources, and I think probably in the past few years, kind of this title arose, and would love your description of it and what the day in life is.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And I actually get that question quite a bit, especially when I'm at a party, although I haven't been at parties lately because of COVID. But people like to always ask, what is a chief people officer? And how's that different from a chief human resources officer or just anybody in HR to begin with? And really, the term human resources in many companies is a way to say that we've kind of evolved away from that term, and it's a way to say that we've decided instead to take a more holistic view in keeping our people and our business objectives in mind. So that's a big part of having that chief people officer title. We look at people; they're not just resources. In many ways, they're human beings.
Love that. At YourCoach, we always say, about happy humans. We all ultimately want to be happy and healthy humans. I think part of the discussion here, and probably not the big elephant in the room. It's the time of the Great Resignation in US and beyond. I think obviously 2020 kind of set us in the path of we're doing this virtually versus sitting down somewhere in a fireside chat, right? So the lines between your home and your work have crossed. How did this impact your and your peers' roles, right, in the space?
Yeah, well, we are people, and so the same thing that everybody else is struggling with, we struggle with. But how our role has changed in itself is that we have new concerns that we didn't have before, which is burnout is prevalent, that employees are really, in some ways looking for change. And the great resignation that's happening is mainly because every day seems like Groundhog Day. And with that, employees want to be able to change something, and they're looking for greater happiness, I believe, not only in their personal life, but in their professional life. And with that, they have also have really kind of experienced some areas in their own personal lives that they want to change. And so people love change when they can control it, number one. Yeah. And in many ways, I think that the Great Resignation that's what that is all about.
Amazing points, right? Because I think what I love what you said earlier is, chief people officers are also human beings. And so I think in any role in a large or small organization. And I think part of that, Pear, there's been quite a lot of announcements, right? You guys are a very high growth company. Attracting the best talent, the best minds is challenging, right? And let's face it, and especially in the digital health arena where we've been seeing quite a lot of fundings. What are you guys looking at from a, obviously benefit perspective and attracting those talents?
Yeah, no, great question. And we get that quite a bit too, because employees are looking for organizations that are doing more for their employees to help them in their everyday. And because we do what we do, we really have to walk the talk to make sure that we are taking our employees in consideration. So for us, we even offer our employees our own products, which is a luxury that we have to be able to do that. But on top of that, we also provide employees with things like therapy sessions and coaching sessions, as well as really making sure that they have the tools that they have to do their job, which is really important. So I think the coaching and therapy sessions that we offer, as well as extra tools to be able to help caregivers, whether they're a parent or a caregiver, have been really important as well.
You bring up an interesting point, right? Because I think many companies, while the caregivers and the family are typically part of it, but I love that you bring this up because many just kind of also focus on the talent, the immediate talent in the company, but again, the work and life balance and how that changed for all of us is even more important these days, right? So. I'd love to actually hear a little bit around, your view and obviously as a coach and how you mentioned it helped you through your path, right? And there's obviously more executive coaching. There's the health and wellness coaching. We at YourCoach look at the approach of, personalized health and well-being coaching drives, higher energy in the employees, back to the health and happiness, which then drives the performance, and therefore individuals can really, enhance their capabilities for their own sake, and therefore drives the company growth, right? So I'm curious on how you look at the health and well-being and coaching in the workplace a little bit deeper.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you have to look at the whole person, number one. And that means emotional, physical, mental, financial, spiritual, like all of those areas in some way, shape, or form affect everybody. They come into work, they are a whole person. And if you're only helping them with a portion of that, then that typically is not something that is sustainable. Employees need to know that employers are caring about them from a holistic standpoint. And so really the best way to do that is to, in many ways, create benefit plans, create programs in your organization that addresses all of those areas.
Yeah, and obviously, again, the diverse workforce and talents that all companies have, and that unique approach, right, to every individual needs is something to be considered always in that journey. Any kind of lessons learned through your career on wellness, well-being, and I guess outcomes, which to be fair for this whole industry, that's always a challenge, right, to measure those outcomes. So I'm curious on, maybe can peel the onion here a little bit on your experience around it.
Yeah, that's great. I have to tell you that I love data. So data is my friend, and data tells me things like when we roll out new programs, what the utilization rate is. Doing surveys with employees to get feedback is really important. And so really looking at those things to help drive and to continue to improve programs at the same time. So even if you roll something out, we like to do pilots here. We'll do maybe a mini cohort of mentoring or a cohort for coaching. And then we look at, how well did that program run and how can we make it better? So continuously looking at how we can iterate on something to make it better. It's one of our core values. So really a big part of who we are as an organization, and also who I am as a head of people.
Absolutely. And just again, you guys are, I don't know, probably 100+ people at this point in the organization, and I'm sure growing fast, right?
230.
What? Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think part of that is, what you mentioned about cohorts and that individualism. And, as you guys are growing, also, there are many options out there. Maybe just kind of step into your head a little bit on the quote unquote bombardment by all the tools, technologies, services, and how are you looking at from a decision-making process on, and this is not just for YourCoach, but many other entrepreneurs and companies and startups that this could be helpful to.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, I know I've learned at a young age in my career to look at what is the value, and then how do you measure that value? So always looking at, what's best for people is really, really key, which sometimes it's the softer things that it's really harder to measure. So when I get notes back from employees that say, thank you so much for that program, that is really needed, and then you get another one and another one, that's a good sign to me that things are well. And sometimes you can't measure that identically. You might say, well, I had half a dozen. If I had a half a dozen people tell me something was really good, that means there's probably 3 times that many that people really enjoy what they're doing. So if I heard, same thing as if you heard a complaint from 2 people, there's 10 that also feel the same. So just knowing that and kind of keeping an eye on things like that, I think are really important as well.
And maybe let's touch on, so first of all, I love, and I'll just, you mentioned data, and to me, value does have data points. Though I joke around, I read a tweet a while back that, if you torture data long enough, it'll confess to almost anything. And however, but I wanted to actually connect the 2 dots, saying that those data points, whether it's the emails or the feedback from human beings that are loving this, are the key components of those data points, right? And you can't torture anyone to write that email. So that's great to hear. Yes. Just for our viewers and listeners, we also want to make this almost, whether it's their breakfast, lunch, or dinner time, whenever they're tuning into us, a brief, to the point, and short, which has been great. But I do want to maybe get a little bit of kind of your lessons learned as a CPO and tie that together with, health and well-being of employees. And I know you mentioned some of that data components, but just key lessons learned that you've experienced, especially I think with a focus on that last, let's call it 2 years, just when the pandemic hit us as a society.
No, great question. Yes, it's been a tough couple years now, and it's even scary to say that it's been a couple years. I would say the lessons learned are to truly listen to what employees are saying to you. Number one skill that they teach you in coaching, right, is to listen. And it still holds true to really be able to hear what employees are saying, and also just be in tune. If you can imagine, as we went to a remote world back in March, and we were one of the earlier ones, we went back and worked remotely March 6th. As an organization, we thought it was only be 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks into 3 months. And here we are today, still working remote, although we do have our offices open and it's optional. But what you end up losing is to be able to see the energy inside of the organization. That's the one thing that I think most executives probably struggled with. But from and then in some cases, some extroverted employees who really kind of thrive on having energy of other people around them. So that was, from a lesson standpoint, is really to understand right off the bat that people were struggling. And I think by the end of the summer, we knew that there were some significant things that we had to do differently. And we did, as an I should say, kind of late summer, we knew we had to do some things differently, and probably should have been a month or two prior to that. Parents and the struggles that they had with childcare and their own mental well-being, in having to manage school with their children and so forth. Number one, and so the lesson learned is really listen, and listen early. If you hear something, do something, and really put a focus on, how are people able to thrive in areas of change. And as an organization, we also, I think we really learned how to create new environments and change and shift our culture needed for our employees. And that was really a crucial thing, really to dive into and see that in the summer of 2020, all the social injustice and unrest that was going on in the world, was really important to have conversations with employees and give them an outlet to go. They didn't know where to turn to. They'd watch the news, turn it off, or watch it while they were working, and then so frustrated with what they were seeing. So as an organization, we started creating something called social justice discussions, which enabled employees to have an outlet to be able to come together and talk about things like racism and policing and human rights. And so that was really beneficial. And we probably should have done it a little bit sooner. And so I think those two things with parents and really the difficulty that employees had around those things, I think were really important part.
I love the hear something, do something. And I think this is where real leadership comes through, right, at the end of the day as well. So, well, listen, as always, appreciate your thoughts, your wisdom for our community of coaches, for our community of employers, for our community of individuals that are there on their path of being happy and healthy and therefore productive humans.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for inviting me. I love what you're doing in your organization, and I look forward to watching you all grow.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.